Donald Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, is just not very good at her job. It is her job to lie. It is her job to push these fake narratives, and yet she just can't. She spends most of the time yelling, lashing out, or just melting down, which is what she did on Fox. Yes, the Fox propaganda outlet, the easiest place to spin your lies. She still fell apart because everything is going terribly for Donald Trump, and we are going to get into it. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, we know why Trump is so upset with the failure around him, but there's also some positivity for Democrats that has Leavitt so upset. So before we get into our meltdown, I want to take a look at some of that right here.
But I wanted to start on more of a hopeful note, because this week has been tough, but has also shown that there are a lot of people out there who are fighting back. I'd even venture to say this has been the best political week Democrats and anyone else horrified, know there's a lot of you out there, by the Trump administration and what they've done since Election Day. And what's most exciting is that this energy shift is really being driven by people across the country. Hundreds of thousands of Americans poured into the streets yesterday, in communities, big and small communities too, to protest against Trump. While cities like New York and D.C. saw tens of thousands of people, big crowds also showed up in red areas too. Places like Farmington, Maine, in a county that Donald Trump has won in every election. Red Bank, New Jersey, where Trump won the county by double digits. Sedona, Arizona, in a county Trump won by more than 30 points as he flipped the state red again. Missoula, Montana, in a state where Donald Trump won by 20. So red states, blue states, swing states, people everywhere are making their voices heard.
We saw incredible scenes across the country from these hands-off protests, and I saw lots of comments, and please let me know if you attended one of them. It just makes me so happy that our audience, our community is out there fighting the good fight and building community and seeing the agency that we have, the numbers that we have, that we are the majority and we are pissed off and we are fighting back. And the majority keeps getting bigger every day as Donald Trump's own supporters abandon him because he's going forward with the stupidest trade war in history and wrecking our economy. And that is the reason we see Karoline Leavitt meltdown. But before we get to her on Fox, there is this parody page of Karoline Leavitt on Instagram that mocks the way that, in theory, she would present a press briefing before she even does. I think we got to take a look at it because it's so perfectly matched how she sounded on Fox. And I really think it's going to make you laugh.
The liberal media is calling it Black Monday. Black Monday, I thought DEI was over and we're no longer labeling things, and call me crazy, but I thought that the liberal media preferred the term African American. So President Trump is going to lead us into a new age, and you can't get to a new age without breaking a few eggs. How do you expect to get a Western omelet made or an egg McMuffin if you don't break a few eggshells? And that's exactly what President Trump is doing for the American people.
Can you talk about the world markets crashing overnight?
Thank you for asking that, Washington Post. Absolutely. The world markets are falling this morning, that we woke up to that. But we knew that was coming because historically the world has ripped us off because of Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama, and also Hillary Clinton's emails to Benghazi. They detailed all of this. This was their plan the whole time. And frankly, it's insulting that you people are trying to pin this on President Trump when all he's doing is leading us into a new economic age of prosperity and wealth. And where is Caitlyn? Is she skipping work?
She's in Paris for her birthday.
Oh, it's her birthday? There's nothing to celebrate there.
Does the president have a statement on the record number of protesters that were out this weekend?
Peter, thanks. There were record numbers of AI-generated people that hit the streets. The Clintons and the Obamas and the worst president in human history, Joe Biden, paid people to stand out on the streets and say that they were out there, sure. But if you want to talk about record numbers, let's talk about the record numbers of people that voted for our President Trump, in landslide numbers like you've never seen before. The numbers of The Apprentice, the record-breaking television show, record-breaking Miss Universe numbers when President Trump only knows success, and those are the records that you should be worried about.
Can the president offer any peace of mind for people that are afraid of losing their retirement because of the stock market crashing?
Yes, people are worried about losing their retirement, and President Trump takes that incredibly seriously. We are the stewards of the economy, and you need to understand that this is the storm before the calm. People need to hunker down because there will be some rain, there might be some flooding, you might have to eat some canned food.
First of all, the makeup is spot on. The cross is perfect. And the presentation, I really just couldn't tell a difference between the comedian and Karoline Leavitt. That's kind of the Mr. and President Trump is going to do this. Like that is how she sounds. Like, I didn't like Kayleigh McEnany, but I honestly felt like she was better at this job. I just have beef with Karoline Leavitt. And obviously, she is a liar, and she is pushing a criminal agenda through the most corrupt administration we have ever seen. And what are they focused on? Well, the American economy falls apart. You guessed it. Protests.
The Democrat Party has been completely captivated by these far-left lunatics. And I'm not sure which Democrat on Capitol Hill is going to stand up and be the sensible voice, but I won't hold my breath, and best of luck to them if one chooses to stand up. They are enjoying their lowest approval rating ever because this is who they are trying to represent. These far-left activists who don't stand for anything. They only stand against Donald Trump, and they hate, as you just heard from that one individual who wished death upon the president of the United States. They not just hate him, they hate the nearly 80 million Americans who elected to vote him. The Democrats have officially become the party of crazy. President Trump and the Republicans are the party of common sense.
Yeah, my constituents were on their hands and knees with a leash. I might switch parties, Karoline, but that's just me.
Karoline Leavitt is throwing a temper tantrum over how a couple of people dressed at a protest while the Dow is imploding. We're on the brink of a recession. Our president is actively losing his mind, and everyone can see it. And this is what you're focused on? Also, how can you, as a person in the party that did January 6th critique so-called extremists on the Democratic side peacefully protesting? It's absolutely nonsensical. But it wasn't just anger that we saw out of Karoline Leavitt. Unfortunately, she was happy about one, and I don't want to call it a success, but success of the Trump administration that she gloated about right here.
This is a massive legal victory, Jesse, a massive victory for law and order and for our constitutional republic and the sovereignty of the United States of America. We called on the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges like Judge Boasberg, who was completely out of line in trying to say that the president didn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists off of our soil. We have always maintained the position at the White House that the president was well within his constitutional authority to do so. And this decision proves that President Trump and our administration have always been right from the beginning. He will continue to utilize the Alien Enemies Act to remove foreign terrorists and Tren de Aragua members, vicious gang members from American communities. And because of this ruling, the United States of America is a much safer place. Our team will get to work tomorrow to deport these heinous, violent foreign terrorists from our neighborhoods.
And you have
So Donald Trump got his big win from his hand-picked corrupt Supreme Court. No shock. But what they're essentially admitting to me in this is that they want the authority to commit what should be and is a crime. I don't care what the Supreme Court says, if they want to pause it, if they want to allow it, if they want to extend an, artificial deadline that means nothing because Donald Trump doesn't care about the rule of law, whatever. Donald Trump is disappearing people. Donald Trump is deporting lawful permanent residents. Just because he has a corrupt Supreme Court backing him doesn't make it any less immoral. That is what this is. It is a terrifying thought, and it is their entire goal, is to intimidate us. And that's what Senator Adam Schiff talked about today. I think we all need to hear.
And we've come to realize, much to our shock, that there's nothing inevitable about this. There's nothing inevitable about democracy or democratization, that this experiment in this country, this great experiment, self-governance, now 2.5 centuries old, is not inevitable. It was improbable at its start. And we've witnessed something we never would have imagined in this country. We have witnessed with incredible rapidity the creation of a climate of fear by this administration. We see universities afraid to speak out, to defend their own students, to defend their own academic freedom. You see universities rushing to make deals with the administration. You see universities cowed into silence, not stepping up to defend other universities. You see members of the press excluded from public events because they don't use the administration's favored parlance. And you don't see other members of the press in solidarity with them. You see law firms rush to cut separate deals. You see lawyers purged from the Department of Justice. You see FBI agents purged from the Bureau. You see scientists purged from their agencies. A wholesale effort to weed out and drive out anyone of independent thinking, anyone who will stand up and defend the rule of law or science or the freedom of thought or expression, right down to ordinary citizens who are now afraid. If the government of the United States can pluck a man off the street and send him to a prison in El Salvador without any kind of due process or any process whatsoever, then no one is safe. And if the government's response to that is to discipline a lawyer who dares to speak the truth to a court, then no one is safe.
This is not what this country is about, which feels a little difficult to say after the second Trump term. But we still do know what is right and what is wrong. And we also do still know that the reason that Donald Trump is carrying out this mass deportation plan in such a way why he is deporting lawful permanent residents is because in those first couple of weeks of his administration, and we talked about this, they weren't racking up the numbers that they wanted, right? They thought that they could have these huge numbers and just deport people en masse. They couldn't do that. So to try to project out this strength, they've decided instead to make the most disgusting displays of breaking the law to deport fathers, community leaders, people who are escaping oppression and gang violence in the country they are fleeing, and ship them to a country they've never been. Why? So they can scare you. That is what it ultimately comes down to. This is a scare tactic. And it only works if we stay scared. That's why we have to fight back. That's why we have to call it out. That's why we have to protest. Clearly, it has Karoline Leavitt upset. And if there was ever a reason to do anything, it is to make Karoline Leavitt upset. So let's keep calling this out. Let's keep fighting back. I'm going to be doing so every single day with you guys. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.